you're watching Adafruit on YouTube. My name is Noé Ruiz, and today we're going to show you how to build a Bluetooth motorized camera slider. But first, intro. Okay, so let's take a look at the parts. First off, we'll start off with the electronics. The heart of this project is run by an Arduino Uno. This one's from Arduino.cc. We'll also need an Adafruit Motor Shield version 2, along with a Bluefruit SPI friend. This is the BLE module. We'll also need a stepper motor with the timing pulley. We'll need a timing belt, a radial ball bearing like you would see on a skate, like a skateboard bearing. We'll also need a supported rail with a platform that slides across the platform. This is a T-shape, so it'll stay on the platform. To power this, we'll use a battery pack that holds 8 AA batteries and provides 12 volts to the Arduino. Of course, you're going to need some hardware bits and some tripod stuff, which we have linked down below and in the tutorial. As for the 3D printed parts, we're going to need an enclosure with a cover that will hold all the electronic boards. We'll need a stepper motor mount. We'll need a mount for the skate bearing, a mount for the platform, which will hold the tripod, and we'll need 2 of these little feet things that'll go on the end of the supporting rail. And that's pretty much all the parts we need to build this project. So let's check out how to assemble everything. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to wire up our Bluefruit SPI friend. It comes with a little stacking header thing here, and what we need to do is we need to install that by sticking that in there, and then we'll solder these 8 pins in place here. And once that's soldered in place, you should cut off the excess stuff, and you should be left with just 9 of them. And you'll need to install that on top of the motor shield. The motor shield has a bunch of these little pins here in the center, and this is a prototyping area, so you can stick other circuits and things on top. So what we'll do is we can place the SPI friend, the Bluefruit SPI friend, on top of the prototyping area like that, and then we'll need to solder it in place by adding some solder to the 8 pins here on the back. And I recommend following our guide on the Adafruit Learning System because it gives you the exact placement and all the wiring stuff, so you can reference that while you build this. After that's in place, you'll need to solder some bits of wire from the pins to several of these pinouts on the side here of the motor shield. And once that's in place, then you'll need to solder the additional pins onto the motor shield itself. So what I recommend doing is measuring up the different segments that you need. So you need to cut these up, and then what you can do is seat them inside of the stacking headers of the Arduino Uno like that. And so once all the segments are installed, then you can just sort of rest the motor shield on top like that, and that way you have everything in place while you solder those pins into place. So once you have that in place, all you need to do is pull apart these 2 components. So you have the Uno and the motor shield, and we need to pull them out so that we can install the Uno into the enclosure box, which we'll do now. Okay, so once we get the Arduino Uno into the enclosure, we'll need to secure it using 4 number 632 screws to the bottom here. So once we have that secured, we can thread the wires from the stepper motor in through this little slit here and thread the wires through the enclosure. Next, we'll need to install these stepper motors into the terminal blocks here on M3 and M4 on the motor shield. And it's pretty easy, you just stick them in there and then use the screwdriver to tighten it shut. So once the stepper motor is connected to the motor shield, we can then just install it to the Arduino Uno by carefully sliding it in and sort of pressing it down to snap it into place. Now we can install the stepper motor mount by just fitting it on top of the motor mount like that, and then using M3 screws to fasten it to the motor mount. That's pretty much it there. We can connect the stepper motor mount to the enclosure by just sliding that T-shaped thing into place like that. So once these 2 pieces are connected, we can just close it off using the cover for the enclosure. It just snaps in like that, and then we can secure it with 4 more screws on the corners. Now we're going to install the timing belt and the skate bearing into the bearing mount. Yeah, the bearing mount. So to do that, we'll insert the timing belt and sort of push it up against this, this guard, and then we can just install the skate bearing on top and just snap it into place like that. You definitely want to do a little pull test to make sure that the guard is keeping the belt in place and the skate bearing is doing its thing. You need to be really careful when you're installing the rail onto the sliding platform. There's going to be a plastic piece on this, so you need to use the railing to sort of push that plastic piece off. You need to be careful, otherwise some of the ball bearings could come out. So once that's situated, we'll mount the camera mount here onto the platform using 4 hex nuts and 4 screws. Once we have the camera mount attached to the sliding platform, we can then install these feet, which is really easy. They just go onto the ends of the sliding rail. And then we can just use a hex nut on the bottom here and then secure it with another screw here. We can install a 1/4-20 screw to the bottom of the camera mount by simply just getting it in there and then just fastening it, or screwing it, I guess, into place like that. Now we can install the bearing mount to one of the feet by just putting it into place here, line up the holes, and use 2 hex screws and 2 other screws to secure it into the foot. Okay, now we need to install the belt onto the camera mount, and that's pretty easy. You just sort of squeeze it down into the belt tensioner thing here. You just sort of press it into place until you got it all the way through, and then the other half just sort of rests right here into the slit so that it can slide through it. Okay, now we can wrap the timing belt onto the timing pulley, and once that's seated, we can then just rest the motor mount onto the foot and then secure it with 2 more sets of screws and nuts. So with that in place, the camera mount should be able to slide with some nice tensioning, and you want to check that before putting on your tripod stuff. So you can either use a cold shoe mount like this one so that it makes it easier to take these types of things off. This is a socket ball head, so they can move around like that. You just fasten it in by screwing it into place. Last thing we need to do is install the battery pack. We can just stick it on to the enclosure like that, and then plug in the barrel jack into the Arduino Uno. So it works really well with your camera phone and even GoPros, and a full body DSLR. You can even use your smartwatch to control the movement of the slider using the Adafruit Bluefruit app. All right, so there you have it. That's how to build and assemble the Bluetooth motorized camera slider. Be sure to tune in next week. We'll take a close look at how to use your mobile device or even a smartwatch to control the movement of the slider. And we'll take a look at the Arduino sketch so you can customize some movements. But until then, be sure to subscribe for more 3D printed projects from Adafruit. I'll see you guys next week.